Hey everybody, welcome to our second round of Facebook Live. I'm Craig here at Integrated Physical Therapy, and I will be taking your questions for the next 20 or 30 minutes with regard to what we do here and some of the programs that we offer. So if there's anything you want to talk about, if there's any questions you might have for your local physical therapist, myofascial release expert, give us a call, send us a text message. I don't know how else you connect through Facebook Live, so just hook on and
just comment.
text us through Facebook.
Just write a comment.
Feel free to comment,
yeah,
and let us know what's going on, things you might want to know about. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do as a physical therapist, as a myofascial release therapist. I'm a John Barnes myofascial release therapist. And this is one of John's books here, which is Healing Ancient Wounds. Phenomenal book, I highly recommend it. And the work that John has developed over the last 50 or so years really is being taught through the work. And Dr. Carol Davis has provided a lot of the science that backs up the work. And Carol is one of our clinicians here, working with clients in the myofascial world. And now let's talk about myofascial release just for a moment. Myofascial release is a soft tissue manual therapeutic approach that we use with clients that have ingrained patterns into their systems. You can think of fascia as the copper wiring or webbing that connects us from head to toe and from front to back and right to left. And when we have, and our body is so beautiful, it'll figure out a way to accommodate and compensate for that. But too much compensation, too much accommodation over a period of time leads to breakdown. You'll end up with shoulder tendonitis for no apparent reason, or you'll wake up and your back hurts or your hip hurts. And more than likely, it's not the cause of your symptoms. Your symptoms are what shows up as the weakest link in the chain, but the cause is a much deeper rooted scenario, which is oftentimes due to restricted fascia somewhere in the system. So as experts, what we do is we start off with a postural analysis. We take a look at the way you're standing. We take a look at the way you're balancing on one foot versus the other. We look to see if your hips are rotated or your shoulders are pulled. We see if your head is forward or your pelvis is rotated forward or back. And then we identify which of the muscles that are over contracted or under contracted. Tightness doesn't really exist in the body. It's really muscles working against one another. But in layman's terms, which muscles are tight? Which muscles are loose? Which muscles need to be released versus which ones need to be more contracted within their activity systems? So that's what myofascial release is. There are three parts to myofascial release, as John has taught us throughout the years. There's rebounding, which is the bouncing of energies back and forth across the system. There is the structural part of the work, which is we put our hands directly on the skin and we hold those positions where restrictions lie within the system for 3 to 5 minutes. And we wait for the gel-like material within the fascial system to become more viscous, to become softer, to melt away. And once that happens, we just follow it wherever it takes us in our system and within our body. And the third part of the myofascial work is unwinding. And unwinding is nothing short of a spiritual release. It's when we take the unconscious brakes off our system that tell us to behave a certain way or move a certain way, the patterns that have been developed over a long period of time. We take those brakes off, and what ends up happening is almost this beautiful dance of movement where our body subconsciously lets go and moves in space. So those three components really make up the myofascial work. And here at Integrated Physical Therapy, we treat each patient for 1 hour. So each private myofascial release treatment session is 1 hour in a private treatment room with dimmed lights, soft music, and an experience like none other. So if you have any questions about myofascial release, go ahead and type them into Facebook. I'll be happy to answer any of those questions for you. One other thing that I'd like to talk about is the Immersion program that we have here at Integrated Physical Therapy. It's an experience that is much deeper level than a one-on-one 1-hour session. This is anywhere between 3 and 5 days of myofascial release, acupuncture, Pilates, massage, and movement therapies that can take anywhere from 3, 4, and 5 days. We encourage people to look at the 4 or 5 day immersion packages, and the reason for that is we want to break the patterns that have put you in the systems, accommodated systems that you find yourself in today. So the 4-day packages, the 5-day packages, you'll come in the morning, you'll receive one-on-one myofascial release, you'll receive group myofascial release where 2 physical therapists, expert level physical therapists or occupational therapists or trained John Barnes therapists are working with one client. And that's 3 hours of myofascial treatment a day. We also include what we call an inner journey, where Carol Davis will take all the participants and the clinicians through an experience where the physical and the emotional become tied in now. So now we're taking it to the next level, because every physical manifestation that we have through patterning is oftentimes coupled with and represented with a spiritual combination. So we bring that into the mix. Tara Carrington is part of our myofascial team here as well, and Tara has devised a movement integration aspect of rolling and moving and creating movement with the newfound patterns of the releases that take place within myofascial release and the experience that you might have. There are various tools that we can use with homework with the myofascial release. In particular, one of the things that I always like to tell the patients that come in here is I'm going to see you between 1 and 2 visits per week. That's 1 to 2 hours per week. There's 168 hours in a week. So if I'm seeing you for 1 or 2, what you do when you're not here is more important than what takes place when you are here. Think of a snowball being kicked down a hill, right? It's going to gradually increase its momentum, and the production of energy that takes place as it moves down that hill will be greater. So that's kind of the thought process that we want to do here. We want to teach you how to use these tools so that you can take care of yourself when you're not here. That's the most important part.
Tara just joined. If you want to say hi to Tara.
Hi Tara, thanks for joining us. Hope all is good.
And Michelle just joined us as well.
Hey Michelle, thanks for joining us. So we're talking about myofascial release balls, and the nice thing about these is, aside from the shameless marketing that we put on them, is they can be inflated and deflated to accommodate to where you are in your journey, because everybody's journey is a little bit different. So if we inflate a ball that's a little bit more firm, that means you can tolerate a little bit more. If we need a little softer, well, maybe you're in the beginning of your journey, or at that particular day you need it to be a little bit softer. These myofascial balls can be used anywhere in your body except for your lower floating ribs. We keep those out of the way. But in particular, into the hip flexor muscles in your psoas, you can lay on them on your belly. And when you lay on them, much like a representation of where the therapist may put their hands, we want to open up those hip flexor muscles to allow for a proper open and extension so that you can get your hips up underneath you and therefore your feet up underneath your hips. So these will go home with you on your first visit here. These are our gift to you so that you can carry on with your home program.
And just a reminder to everyone who just joined us, Craig is talking about the different tools for myofascial release, but if you have any questions along the way, feel free to leave a comment and I'll read it off to him so he can answer.
Okay, excellent. We'd love to hear as many comments as possible. That'd be great. Everybody can join in. This is a different kind of myofascial ball. These are made of foam, and they're a little smaller, so they can be used in just pinpoint areas throughout the hips, the external rotators in your butt, the calves or the feet, shoulders or shoulder blades, and they're nice and foamy, so they can grip onto the skin a little bit, because everything we do we like to do on the skin to make sure that we don't slide or roll, because in the myofascial release thought process, we think about pressure, which is the amount of pressure we put between ball and tissue, shear, which is the separation of the actual restriction, and then time. We like to hold for a minimum of 3, 4, to up to 5, 7 minutes. And as the tissue starts to melt, what ends up happening is you're going to feel it somewhere else. And when you feel it somewhere else, that's your body talking to you, and that's where you want to go next. Foam rollers are also a great idea. The misconception is that we need to roll out our muscles on a foam roller in order to create softening. And the reality is what you're doing is actually dehydrating the musculature. You're actually pushing vital fluid out of the muscle when you roll on it continuously. It'll feel good temporarily, absolutely. And what ends up happening is you're solidifying the musculature. The fascia becomes more hardened. So much like any of the tools that we use here, we'll encourage people to roll to find a space of what would be hot, hard, tender, a spot where it lights up. And the body will let you know. It'll talk to you and say, yep, that's the exact spot where I need to be, and hold it. Wait until that spot starts to release, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And for those of us that might spend more time behind a computer, bent forward over a treatment table, whatnot, lying on a foam roller from head to toe with your knees bent and your arms outstretched is a really nice way to recreate the extension posture, and oftentimes just neutral posture that we need to recreate after a long day of sitting in a forward flex position. So those are some great tools that we use here, that homework tools that we'll send people home with. We also like to couple the work that we do in myofascial release with Pilates. There is a great misconception that Pilates is Pilates. And the reality is not all Pilates is created equal, much like not all physical therapy is created equal. So we highly encourage that when you do seek a Pilates expert, that you do find an expert, somebody who has the ability to recognize postural shifts or modifications that you might need in your system. Those are very, very important. Down here in South Florida, Brent Anderson from Polestar has developed a program that our Pilates instructors go through here. And Dr. Davis, Carol Davis, has worked with Brent in the development of the myofascial component of how the Pilates and the myofascial release go hand in hand together. So our Pilates instructor here, Maria Rizzolia, has gone through the Polestar education, and we work very much hand in hand as we start reopening the connection, the deeper levels of the fascia within the system and accommodation that has taken place. We do need to re-educate the system through movement and through exercise. And we found that Pilates integration and modification that can be done with the exercises is a wonderful way to go through it. So we highly recommend an educated Pilates instructor to work with you on an individual basis to create that re-education or re-adaptation that the myofascial work will open up on a manual and spiritual level, and then brought back into the world of gravity with the Pilates exercise.
Hey, Kendra just joined us and she gave you a big like.
Thanks, Kendra. Great to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. Any questions out there? Anybody have anything they want to add to the conversation? I know we have a couple of myofascial release experts on the chat line right now watching in.
So Tara commented saying, yes, Craig, our objective is always to teach our clients how to take care of themselves. Great information.
Thanks, Tara. We appreciate it. 100%. I always tell our clients the best thing that we can do for them is teach them not to be here, to be able to take care of themselves and to come back to us when they need a tune-up, when they're feeling their bodies out of alignment. We want our clients to become self-aware enough that when they're standing, they have an understanding and recognition and awareness that there is a shift within their being, within their posture. That one leg might be longer than another because of a rotation in the hip, or that one shoulder might be hiked up. And you can see this, right in front of a mirror. So if we can teach you what to do at home and you can take care of those things at home, it's maintenance. It's like putting oil in your car. It's like rotating your tires. We take care of all those other things. We should take care of ourselves. So good info, Tara. Thank you.
Andrea just joined in too.
Hey, Andrea. Hope you're doing great.
So when do you want to? You mentioned the immersion. Do you want to talk about when the next one is?
We have our next immersion in September. I believe we might have one spot available left. Our immersions are highly sought after, and we're very blessed and grateful that the program is doing very well. We may have one spot left in September. If not, the next one will be in October. We do them once a month. The September dates are September 11th through the 15th. We are planning a cocktail evening somewhere in there as well for everybody. And then October, those dates will be posted soon. So if you're interested in joining us for an immersion session to really get deep, these people may come in with years and years of chronic pain, of habitual patterns, of my back has hurt as long as I could remember. Oftentimes clients come in have had some trauma in their life. It could be a trauma from early on in childhood. It could be a car accident or falling down some stairs that has put them in some sort of movement pattern they've held on to for 20 or 30 years. And we're breaking them out of these patterns. So September 11th through 15th is our next immersion. We may have one spot open. I highly encourage that you book way ahead of time. We do encourage that if you're a local participant, that you stay in a hotel. The whole idea is to break you out of your patterns, right? So if we come in for therapy for a few hours and then you go back to your daily life, it's the same patterns over and over again. We have to change the thought process, we have to change the patterns, we have to recreate new ones, and the best way to do that is to bring you out of your comfort zone. So we encourage an Airbnb or a hotel nearby. We have those on our website, iptmiami.com. And you can contact us through the website as well to sign up for the immersions. The pricing and information is all on there as well. And we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And maybe just a reminder that we'll do this again next week, and if they have any questions or any topic they want to hear about next week.
Great. So Facebook Live at IPT is now happening every Friday at 1 o'clock. One of our therapists will be sitting right here where I am, having a conversation with you out in Facebook world with whatever topics you'd like to talk about. Today was myofascial release, last week was acupuncture. If you have anything that you want to talk about next week or the week after, shoot us a text message or an email. Let us know on Facebook what topics you'd like us to cover, and we'd be happy to go through that with you. So until next week, looking forward to hearing from you guys. Take care. Have a great day.